experienced some endurance exercise recently.
Mm.
Wasn't very fun though. Maybe my cortex has grown.
Well, that's an interesting study as well, because you got you didn't end up obviously getting the rush of finishing the roto swim, but still when you got into the boat after you'd
And threw up everywhere.
vomited, was there still a feeling of, what were your thoughts? What were you going through? Was there still a feeling of achievement, the fact that you'd done so well? And
No, not really. I didn't feel like I'd done very well.
okay.
To be pulled out and not finish it was I was pretty gutted because I'd been training
I
quite
know.
a bit for it.
So that's an interesting one, because we've been talking about, that's coming back to that.
It was a very
performance-based
weird
thing.
feeling because I'd
Yeah.
been exercising for 4.5 hours, like swimming in pretty horrible water conditions,
Mm.
but there was no sense of achievement. So I was in a bit of a limbo where I had all the dopamine and the endorphins and serotonin released, but then on the psychological side of things, I had the lack of sense of achievement.
Yeah.
So I was kind of mellowed out. I didn't really know how to feel. The best way I could describe that day was I didn't know how to feel about it. Because I felt good that I'd exercised for so long, but I didn't feel good about not finishing it, but it was out of my control because the race was cancelled.
Yeah.
I think as an outsider, what you did is pretty insane. I think
too.
raising all that money. How
But
much?
that was awesome. We ended up raising $8,100 for Crohn's and Colitis Australia, which is wicked for
That's
a good
awesome.
cause. Even though the day was cancelled, it was about something much bigger, and
Yep.
I think there's a lot
very happy with that.
of positives out of an event that unfortunately got cancelled. You
Yeah.
made it. I think that's the most important
I
thing.
feel bad for Johnny who was paddling as well. It looked horrible
Look, I'm
paddling in
gonna
the ocean.
go out on a limb here, and hopefully Rottnest Channel Swim doesn't cancel us for this, but I think the event should have been cancelled from the start.
Yeah.
I think the day was such an anomaly when you look at the days around it, that it was obvious it was going to be just an absolute mess. I think because there was a hurricane up north or something like that, and so obviously we always catch. There's quite often hurricanes up north, and we usually, it's been seen in the past. You catch some pretty hairy days down here. You just get like a tail of a hurricane. But knowing that, having that information, and seeing like everyone looking at the forecast for weeks out, almost were like, wow, the wind's like this, and then for one day it spikes. So you know that it's not just a regular weather pattern. There's something abnormal going on. So there's my thoughts, that they should have canned it at the start. But then again, having that experience in the worst case scenario, I guess, was good, especially for you. That was your first time
It
doing
was
the roto
pretty
swim.
awful, to be honest.
But it was
very
pretty
seasick.
awful. Lots of people put a lot of effort into it.
Lots of people got hypothermia.
Lots of people got hypothermia. The reason why they justified pulling everyone out
was they ran out of
halfway.
resources.
They ran
to
out of
help.
medical resources to help, which at that point
Because so
obviously
many
makes
people
sense.
were pulling out.
Yeah. And it was
So-
crazy. And people were pulling kayaks out of the water because it's too difficult to kayak and manage that. And it was like a war zone. It was, what were we saying, reverse.
It was like a
Saving Private
reverse
Ryan.
D-Day instead
Yeah.
of Private Ryan
And you
going
just-
off the beach with all the boats and kayaks everywhere.
Yeah.
Did they ever justify why they started it in the first place?
I don't know. I think
Money.
what's the, yeah. No, that's.
There's
I
a
think
lot of
that's
money involved.
I think that's a
It's
conspiracy.
We're not hating. I'm going to do it next year, but
I think that's a conspiracy, but maybe.
guaranteed entry for next year is good.
I think, but I think that's a conspiracy that they don't have to refund people if they start the event. Maybe. I don't know. We don't
There would
want to
be
get. We don't
something.
want to get into. We don't want to get into
But while I was swimming, a lot of
thoughts.
thoughts about I hate this so much. I don't want to keep doing this. I want to opt out. Like the first 2Ks I swam, my goggles were too tight on my head, and the constant hitting waves on my head because we were swimming into the waves had the worst headache ever until I think it was Kalani loosened my goggles, and then I felt a lot better. But the seasickness of the constant up and down, and every now and then you'd stop and you wouldn't even be able to see 2 meters forward or backwards or around you because the waves were so high was really awful. But at the same time, when I was doing it, I was thinking, well, what if I can finish this? If I can finish this in these conditions, the sense of achievement will be unbridled. Because as much as you're hating doing it and constantly wanting to quit, it's resisting that will to quit and fighting that urge and pushing through it that I feel is where a lot of the benefits come for your mental health when it comes to exercise like that.
Yeah, and realistically, you're never going to get out of the water unless they pulled you out. Like you would have probably got there. It would have taken us
If I
10 hours, but
probably would have yacked in the water, and
Yeah,
if I didn't get hypothermia, I would have been fine, I think.
yeah. yeah.
My
I think-
arms were feeling pretty good. I wasn't gassed or anything like that. I just felt so seasick from the
Yeah.
waves. Like I took a ondansetron, which is prescription grade anti-motion sickness pill
Yeah.
before, and just didn't do anything. It was pretty messed up, but
Yeah, and the whole day is such a great. It's such a great event as well, and it's something that people come from all over the world even to do. And when you get down to the beach, obviously the conditions were pretty. It was pretty ominous. It was pretty
freezing in the
foreboding.
cold wind as well.
Get to see Campbell's getting animal fat rubbed all over him, getting lanolin rubbed over him by Campbell's mum.
But then I was too cold, so I put a jumper on.
Yeah,
And then I took the jumper off, and it took all the fat off
yeah.
my arms with it.
It's just chaotic. But when you get down there and you look out and all the boats are out there with their port and starboard lights, it's actually quite beautiful. And you're like, oh, this is pretty cool.
Unreal.
But yeah, Campbell set off at 6, so we got there at 5:15.
Yeah, I was up at 3 a.m. for it,
Had to
Just-
meet him.
not feeling good about it.
Had to meet him within the first 100, 200 meters.
Yeah.
And so yeah, all the kayakers, and then we had to find the boat. But yeah, it was a. I still think it was a pretty memorable day, and probably even more memorable than if you, or not for you, but for me, more memorable than if you'd completed it. Maybe
I
because-
think it's one of those things as well. It's just,
Yeah.
you're always going to remember the time that you got 10Ks in and you got pulled out.
Well, I got to do it next year. I've kind of like the
more
job's
time,
not done.
more
Job's
time
not
to
finished.
train, more time to train, more time to
done.
raise money. I think.